Okay, let's talk about the game, this reality that so many people are calling the game, the matrix, Maya, the illusion. What is this game? And what is the difference between what we've been hearing and seeing uh, on social media and how everybody kind of puts it in a way that makes you feel that you are, or this version of you, is being controlled by another version in a very different dimension. And this is what I wanted to ground our thoughts to, because the same image, I mean, this is very simple analysis. More than just looking very deep into it, it's about looking broadly. It's about widening your perspective and having no expectations of what you're going to get. Because the no expectations allows you to be surprised on what you might get or might not, or how would you get what you want or might not get what it is that you are wishing to experience. So this reality, this game, let's look into it. And we've seen how people look at it as if we were watching somebody else in a different dimension, in a higher dimension, in a more in a wider dimension, how they are playing this video game where you are now experiencing as reality. And it's all about this game, the game, the game. But what is this game? And what is the purpose of this game? Because as we know, there is a purpose, there is a reason, there is a very profound meaning to absolutely everything that is, even when that meaning is not meaning at all. And I know that sounds paradoxical, but that's what everything that we're experiencing is. Why paradoxical? And I want you to imagine at this point the image of the yin yang and how this image relates to what we are talking about, the game. And I want to ask you, what is your version of the game? And what is your version? What you perceive in the aspect or the meaning or the projection from the yin yang? What does it tells you? And what can you learn from it? And I think this is a very critical experience, because from this experience, pretty much you can unravel or you can begin to dissect the real meaning of your life and where it is that you find yourself and how you can begin to play the game in a more fluent, in a more easy and harmonic and enjoyable and masterful way. And I think this is the key of this point. Now you know that we have come to the point when you have to choose and decide where do you belong. And this is not about you finding your origin or finding where do you belong. It's about choosing. Yes, yes, of course we can choose our own reality and game. This is what it's all about. We can choose to be or not to be. And we can choose also to be and not to be. And this is the paradox, which I find even more interesting nowadays. This paradox of what are we really looking at? What is actually happening? And I understand your point of view. And I understand how it's actually easier than we think it is to put ourselves in a position where we begin to choose our own reality. But how? And how can we get onto the driver's seat? And this is where I come to present this perspective, this Emris perspective, the immortal perspective, which is a perspective that allows the gamer and the game to have a more authentic and direct, intense grasp on what your reality is. And what I want to say, simply, is to know yourself to that point where you know where does it feel better to be you. Because obviously you can choose whatever you want. You can choose to be in a place where you find yourself in conflict, where you find yourself in pain, where you find yourself climbing to the mountain, to the top of the mountain, and you can go there with all the expectation of finding what it is that you're looking for. But if you've been on this journey as long as I know you've been, there's no fooling you. At least not fooling you twice. Because, yeah, we've been fooled once. And that's okay. But you cannot be fooled twice without knowing that you've been fooled. That is the secret. Knowing that the aspects of what you are getting are already results of what you've been expecting. And you've been expecting that because you had already the idea of something that could happen in that way. If you didn't have an idea of what the result will be, you will definitely have no expectations of what to get. Not even if somebody have told you, oh, that's what you should be getting. You would not have an idea since it's not part of your experience. So, what is all this pointing towards? And I think the secret of this is realizing where we are right now. The point of now. The point of right now. And that point of right now is the accumulation and the sum of everything that has been happening all around you for many stories and from many different angles and from many different perspectives and directions and origins to come to where you are right now. And if you know where you are right now and you can observe both the outside world and the inside world, you begin to realize that you are in a very specific point in your life when you know that you can continue being who you've been, holding to the story that you've been holding on to, holding to the perspective and the connections and the purposes and all the pieces of information that have created your identity as you, or you can simply begin to say, well, I just don't know what I don't know. However, I know something that I'm still not 100% sure what it is. But I know there is something that I am that I have not been before. And for that, the only thing that is required is for you to move on and to step on to the next level of who you are. But that, what does that truly mean? And here is where it gets kind of funny, and the adventure gets really tricky, magical, and entertaining, I would say, because this is where we begin to get high with the way we perceive ourselves and we perceive our role in everything that is. Because so far, I'm sure, the most part of you have been focusing on you. Have been focusing on getting to know you. And the more you know who you are and what you're made of, and the more you know your strengths and your vulnerabilities, and the more you know that you are way stronger than you ever thought possible. And you know this not because it sounds romantic or sounds beautiful or it sounds like, yeah, that must be true because a lot of people say it and it's always been true to somebody, so it must be true to me too. No. You know you're stronger than you ever thought possible because now you have the evidence. Because now you know that when it's required, when you have to, when there is no other option than be strong, you are the strongest you could ever be. And that you know. And you may have allowed yourself to fall into practices that may not follow that directive. You may have followed instances when you allow yourself to feel vulnerable and weak. And that is okay, because it allows you to feel comfortable. It allows you to feel as you belong somewhere. And that feels comforting. So going back to what you know is not a regression of self. It's a progression, because the more you visit your previous self, the more you will begin to notice how that stops being true or authentic to you. And you begin to wonder, wow, if I'm not that, what am I now? Who am I? And that's when the surprise begins to happen, begins to appear, right in front of us when we begin to realize that there is a very specific tone, like a harmony, like a music note that expresses the perfection, the beautiful harmony of everything that is you. So now that you know that is you, and that we begin to understand where we are right now, and that we begin to explore outside our own view and realm, and begin to identify the parts of us that feel not authentic, it's time, in this precise moment, to begin to experience the other side. Remember that we talked about the yin yang at the beginning of this interview. And the beginning of that image, wherever you want to put it, it has to be a dot. It starts with one single point. And you can choose which point you want to choose from. We can choose the dark or the light point. I'm talking about the yin yang figure and image that you now have in front of you. And you can choose these 2 points. You can choose, you say, well, I don't want to choose, I want to choose the other part. Brilliant. What only thing that I'm trying to do is to simplify and to make it easier to find yourself within a safe and a very clear space where you can begin a journey into the next level. So what is this point of origin? Whatever you chose. Sometimes we think we didn't choose. Well, let's choose the dark one because I like that, the dark. Now that I have stopped being afraid of it, now that I have learned to embrace and learn and love and admire and master, and definitely observe with gratitude such darkness. So I'm going to start with the dark. And many of what we now perceive as the game, it can be quite dark. It can be very dark. And right now things can get really, really, really dark very quickly. People are taking very extreme views of what they are and what they are not. They are very, very, very clear that whomever or whatever they are is completely different of what they perceive not to be. So, that is a moment of now. However, if we go into the vision of the gamer, the one who is behind the game, the one who is putting everything in place as it is, you would say, well, it's a matter of two. We are in a dual reality, therefore has to be two. There has to be, as in the yin yang, has to be the dark and the light. So therefore, if I have chosen to now be or identify with the dark spot, that means that the gamer must be the light. So I have to be more, I want to come closer to that vision of the gamer, to that perspective, because that is good, that is light, that's bright, that's warm, it's beautiful, it's accepted, it's embraced, it's wanted, it's loved. So yes, I should look as above that light and the dark as below. And if you don't agree with this, please write on the comments below, and I would love to listen and read your comments, please. But what if this duality is not a matter of two, but a matter of three? What if the duality is not about above and below, but about you and who you are not? What about if it's now, a moment in time, when inclusion is not only required, but somehow demanded by the game itself, but the game that requires the gamer and the game to become one? But how would that happen? How would the gamer and the game become one? Well, that would be by beginning to embrace a bigger version of you. But how could you embrace a bigger version of you if all that you know is one? If all that you embrace is one side of the story, one perspective of truth, one version of the reality and the game, the one version that is accepted and good, what about all that you perceive as not you, but somehow you? And you will say, well, what about that? How? Let's talk about trauma. Let's talk about addiction. Let's talk about mental health. Let's talk about injustice. Let's talk about illness. Let's talk about programming. Let's talk about what you cannot stop being, regardless of how much you are trying to push it away. Think about something that you haven't been able to shake. Trauma. Illness. Confusion. Weakness. darkness, death, ignorance, fear. All those little things that you wish weren't there. But somehow they are. Somehow they are an integral part of who you are. Now, remember the phrase or the quote, to be or not to be. That was the question. For now, the question has been answered, since there is no question asked without an answer. And we know that the answer even came before the question. So what now? Now that we know the answer to be or not to be, where do we stand now? So the challenge in all this situation is not about exclusion. It's not about separating yourself from what you believe you are not, but to embrace it. And that is the challenge. No longer a question, because now we know. The challenge is to be and not to be. Equally embraced, equally loved, equally understood, equally mastered, equally valued, equally sick, look after, adventure into, equally. Now that is the challenge, because what it means is that you have to start feeling proud of what we now perceive as shameful. Think about your darkest thought, that one. Think about how people would react if they knew that thought lives in you. Now, think about that thought not being hidden in the dark, but brought up to the light. Not by others, because it's not about judgment, but by you, because it's about inclusion and embodiment. It's about you expanding. It's about you realizing that what you thought make you less could make you a lot more. How? Well, that's a challenge. That takes wisdom, It takes clarity. It takes perseverance. It takes determination. It takes a lot of humility. It takes discipline. It takes that ability to know, to see, to perceive, to feel, and not doubt. Doubt. How would you make a mind not doubt itself? Well, if you one day decide to stop doubting, it's not about becoming very, very, very certain of one side of the story. Like, I believe in love. No, I don't believe in love. I believe in love. I don't believe in love. Because that doubt will take you nowhere. That fight or inner conflict will keep you trapped in the trying to decide which one is true, which one is right, which one is right now. And this is a beautiful piece of harmony that I would like to share with you. Just because it's not right, it doesn't mean it's right. Because what can be right now can not be right then or be right there. Does that make sense? Maybe what is not right now belongs to right then. Because if something was right back then, may not be right right now. But it can allow the possibility to be right then. There. So we have right now, right then, and right there. So we can still see it. We can see it happening somewhere. And that is the game. That is the game of this three-part identity of who we are, who we were, and who we came to be. By the ability of the gamer to look without judgment in a total neutral perspective, in the knowing that everything serves everything, as back to the yin-yang figure, without a portion of the black, it will be an unbalanced figure. We need perfect balance and constant self-nurturing processes like the Taurus. This ability to become and release and let go and embrace and be reborn and stop being what you are and being it again and start in the cycle of embracing and letting go, embracing, learning and letting go, embracing, learning, mastering and letting go, embracing, learning, mastering, practicing and letting go, embracing, mastering, practicing, sharing and letting go. And allow the game to take you to wherever it is that you should be next. So this is it. This is the Emris version of the game. A three-part perspective where we have the observer, which is the part of you that knows you in its whole, in its totality, in its wholeness. The bright side that wants to be right, that wants to be truthful, that wants to be seen, that wants to be acknowledged, praised, rewarded, loved. And then we have the dark side, the one that shies away, that hides, that part of difficulty and pain, and the part that finds very difficult to be seen, and the part that finds very challenging to feel proud. That part. And the bright side must share the same values of courage, of harmony, balance, clarity, power, determination. And now you probably can see why those difficult parts won't go away, because they have the same determination to move forward. But anyway, I want to hear from you. I want to understand your perspective. And I would like to share and to show how you can use this game, and how by embracing all that you are and all that you are not, how you can embrace and expand and become a lot more than you are right now. To be able to heal yourself, to be able to feel better, safer, more authentic, more useful. More at peace. This is Emris. And I approve this message. Satnam. Namaste. Hasta la próxima.